As President Trump weighed in on the halftime show controversy, and only controversy was there was basically two halftime shows, he basically turned it into a truth about the economy and the stock market because he said Bad Bunny was a disgrace because we're having so many gains on the market. So it really wasn't quite dialed in. But let's dial in on the actual numbers of the performance. Now, while it is a bit of a non-disclosure that people watching the Super Bowl have an easier time to not turn the channel, not find the alternative, than stick around and watch Bad Bunny. Here's the numbers that we have essentially from the night as Bob and Benito went head on head, more or less, because there's some issues on lip syncing and pre-taping as well on the halftime show going forward. Start off with Bad Bunny and his massive mainstream audience that he got from watching the Super Bowl. People watching the game, which at that time was a pretty boring defensive showdown, which a whole lot of kicks, not a lot of actual touchdowns, not a lot of throwing. Bad Bunny's official halftime show had exceptionally large television audience, estimated at well over 130 million people. Some say maybe 140 plus across broadcast and streaming platforms. These figures are making one of the most watched halftime shows in Super Bowl history, which as more people watch the Super Bowl, it gets bigger anyway, so that number is always kind of a But with so much focus on the halftime show and Bad Bunny being the one of the biggest international stars, let alone just American stars, and the actual big interest internationally of Super Bowl this year, there are a lot of people watching for this thing. Meanwhile, the Turning Point USA alternative, Kid Rock's show, had millions, but fewer millions than the millions that watch Bad Bunny. By contrast, the All-American Halftime Show, which had streamed online and had issues with X killing it hours before the actual performance, Kid Rock and other performers, and maybe some tracks and some recorded things too, got millions of viewers on YouTube and platforms. The peak viewership in the stream, live that was 5.7 million concurrent viewers. Now, it also was an ongoing concert, so if you didn't want to watch more football, you could have kept watching the concert early or late, apparently. I tuned into it about 20 minutes after the halftime show was over, saw they're still playing. I was like, what the hell's going on? Because they made a big deal out of it, making it a concert for people to show up, as opposed to just the 13 minutes that Bad Bunny had to perform for people who were there supposedly to watch a football game or watch commercials on TV. As we said, the official NFL halftime is 130 plus million viewers officially for NFL, although many believe it's closer to 140 plus with traditional TV and streaming reaching. Kid Rock's Turning Point USA alternative, 5 to 6 million viewers, much smaller online audience there it was. So the official Super Bowl halftime show airs on broadcast television. It aired on whatever streaming platform, I guess Peacock as an NBC, and it aired across the world in major streaming services. So people got a chance to see it directly inside of the actual game they were watching already. It wasn't alternative programming. You don't have to change the channel. Remember back in the day when you had to go change the channel, go watch the Puppy Bowl at halftime? You didn't have to do that. It was already there. It's there. The alternative show was an online streaming event run concurrently, more or less, typically draw a smaller niche audience compared to live national broadcast. Now you can look at what's going on between the two shows and go back and forth on who had the better show. There was a lot of command of words, we'll just put it like that, of the responses for both shows and people basically piling onto the themes and the threads for one show just to bitch about the other one. People complaining about Kid Rock who actually didn't watch it. People complaining about Bad Bunny who didn't watch it, and people sort of hyping up their guy more or less because they could. It's an interesting face-off where who really cared? They could have had Kid Rock do the halftime show, except Kid Rock is not new and upcoming, and Apple Music really wants to sell actual music to people who will buy it. And again, Bad Bunny, the biggest star on the planet, literally is a better pull than Kid Rock in most cases, even though you have the background of American values, which itself is there. The show itself, Kid Rock, he did play ball with the ball, so he did all the stuff like that. And there were other songs that are a bit racy because we all do these things. That's what we listen to. But Bad Bunny had what looked like a cross-section of Puerto Rico where it was fun, it was family, there was an actual wedding on there. He gave his Grammy to a kid who got detained for just being a kid. It was a great celebration. The message, love will always beat out hate. And that we are all Americans, and essentially a shout out to basically all the nations in the hemisphere, including the United States and Canada and Mexico and all the nations south of the border. It was a big show. You didn't have to know Spanish to kind of get into it. There was a whole lot of music and dancing and a lot of cameos, including surprise Lady Gaga and what threw my wife off, Ricky Martin jumping up to sing for a moment. That was something that got her going well. So what do you think about the halftime shows? Which ones did you actually watch? Which ones did you piece out? Which one are you more interested in? And what do you think the actual fallout will be? We'll talk about game stuff going on live because within a couple of days, as the teams start to retool and prepare for the next season, it will be a whole new, brand new level thing. And of course, Apple Music and Rock Nation, who produced this one, will have to figure out how to up this ante for next year because it's going to be a hard one. From Kendrick Lamar the year before, and the year they had Snoop and Dre do, the theme to the 80s while Mary J. Blige is breaking up with the nation on live on his camera. And, that had people going nuts. Usher having all the white folks, all the white ladies dancing all over the place. It's hard to keep up being the antes for these things. I don't know how extra American Kid Rock's will be next year, but we'll see how extra bouncy Apple will be next year. Meanwhile, your thoughts.